it's Ginger from StampingTheCape.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and it's been a while since I've done a video, but recently I posted this little trophy that I made using the window box Thinlits dies, and this is a little cup that was made using the envelope punch board, and I said I would provide a video on how I did this, so this is what I'm going to do. So hopefully it all works out. On this particular project I used the mini sequins around the trim, but after I had constructed it and this was blank, I thought, oh, you know what, it would look kind of neat with these little feathering pieces, so I'm going to do that on this one. So anyway, what you're going to need, I'm going to provide a complete supply list, but what you're going to need is 2 pieces of the window box Thinlit cut out from basic black cardstock. You're going to need 1 punch of the perfect, no, what is it called? I'm sorry. The best badge punch. So you're going to need 1 badge. You're going to need 2 2-inch silver foil circles, 1 piece of 1/2 inch by 8.5 inch silver foil, and a piece of 1.5 by 3.25 inch silver foil. And then you'll need, for the cup, you need a piece of 8 by 5.5 smoky slate and a 1.5 inch smoky slate circle. And I think that's all your basic pieces. And again, I will provide a supply list when we start. So when doing the box, I made myself a template because when I first got this die, it was a little confusing because when you put the box together, one side is going to be up and one side is going to be down. And what I mean is you're going to attach it, and how they did it was like sort of make it look like a little body. So you got a head and there's 2 arms and 2 weird legs and his little body. So when you fold it up like this, you'll see that these pieces are going in one direction. See, and then the other pieces are going in the other direction. So when you lay it flat, you want to have your top pieces stamped the correct way, so as you would normally stamp, and then you would want to turn your stamp upside down and stamp the other side. So that's what I'm going to do with the little fleur-de-lis. No, it's not really a fleur-de-lis. I don't know, the feathering effect. So I'm going to stamp it in these 3 sections. So I'm going to heat emboss it. So I'm going to start with my embossing buddy across those areas. So I'm taking my Versamark and I'm going to stamp on those 3 sections, and I believe this will fit perfectly within there. Hopefully I won't get my head too far in the picture. Okay, so I'm going to actually just sprinkle this real quick with the silver embossing powder so the ink doesn't dry. I won't heat it yet, but so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so we got those 3. So now what I'm going to do, let me just put this back in. So now what I'm going to do is flip this other half around. So the first time I stamp this way, I'm going to flip this way and stamp in the opposite direction. Or you could just do it the other way and turn your stamp upside down, but I'm not doing that. So okay, so now I got those 3. And let me do my embossing powder again. And I'm just going to heat this up and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I've used my heat tool to heat that up, and I'm going to fold on all the score lines so we can get that piece going. There's lots of little score lines on this box. And you've got these little tabs. And on my first box, I sealed it all up, but then I was thinking, well, maybe you'd want to leave it so that you could open it and you could put some extra, an extra gift inside. In the cup itself, you could put some shred in, which I did originally, and put a gift card in there. So you have some options with what you can do with this. So it's kind of fun. Okay, so as I said, when we put this box together, what we're going to do is we're going to attach this piece here so that when it comes up, all your pieces are stamped in the right direction. So I'm going to use some tear and tape for that. You want something, when you're creating 3D items, you generally want to use something that's pretty strong, because if it's going to have movement to it, it could come apart with just using snail. So, you know, you may want to use the tear and tape, or if you prefer, you can use the multi-purpose liquid glue. That's another strong adhesive. Some folks, it scares people a little bit. I use it a lot. And you do have to be careful with it. You do have to get that flow going correctly. So I'm going to fast forward as I do this so that you can see how I do it, but you don't have to be sitting around waiting and watching. But you'll see how I put these pieces together. I'm going to roll that back a little bit because the tear and tape tends to be a little bit wider than a 1/4 inch score line. So here we go. Okay, now I didn't put tear and tape on this top. I'm going to try to keep this as a lid that could be opened. We'll see what happens if I make the cup. If it doesn't stay down, I may have to seal it up. But let's see what happens. So you notice that I cut off on one of these sides. I cut off these flaps because you don't need those. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove our protective edge. So this piece is going to come up like this. So I'm going to remove all of these protective pieces. And yep, I shouldn't have put tear and tape on these two pieces, so I'm just going to roll it off. And hopefully I won't make a mess of it. Well, that came off easily. And we're going to take this side off. So, ignore that. So I'm going to try to see if this lid will stay closed as the base of our trophy. So there you go. And there's our little embossing all around the edge. That came out pretty good. I didn't do too bad a job. It's pretty even. So, okay, so there's our bottom. So now we're going to make this little cup, and I'm giving credit to Linda Parker from Paper Crafting with Crafty. She's over in the UK, and if it wouldn't be an insult to her, I would love to instruct you as she has with her English accent. I absolutely love it, but I won't do that. So what we're going to do is you've got your 8" by 5.5" piece of smoky slate, and again, I'm going to give you all these instructions in a PDF that you can download, but you're going to score it at 1 1/4 on the across the 8" side, 1 1/4, 2 1/2, 3 3/4, 5, 6 1/4, and 7 1/2. And it's just, they're just basically 1 1/4 inch increments. And then you'll turn it and you're going to score on this side at 1 1/8, and then at 3 5/8. And the 1/8 eighth mark is the 1/8 is the little small hash right after the 1, and on the 3 5/8 is the little small hash right after the 1/2 inch mark, in case you have difficulties with those kind of measurements. And I'm going to fold on all the score lines, and you want to try to keep your score lines top and bottom lined up. It'll just make your little cup a little bit neater. Okay, so now we're going to bring in the envelope punch board. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold the short end down, and there's a little, you can see, I think, in the punch board, you've got this little bar right here. That's where we're going to line up each of these score lines. So you're going to fold this over, and you're going to take this score line, tuck it right all the way to the back, and line it up with that bar, because we're going to be cutting notches. I got to stand up for this, all the way across. Okay, so this is what you end up with. So now we're going to trim away this little bottom piece and this piece up here. You don't need those. So you're just going to cut from the top to that horizontal score line there. And I'm going to just slightly angle this. It'll just make it a little bit easier getting it inside. When you see what we're going to be doing. Those pieces out of the way. Okay. So now we're going to put some tear and tape right here. That will be sealing up our piece. And I'm going to put it close to this score line, close to this fold, because that's going to be the edge on the outside, and you want to try to have it as tight on that outside edge as possible. Okay, and then we're going to be putting tear and tape along here and along here, and the only thing you want to do is you want to keep it about a 1/2 inch or so away from this edge, because what will happen is we're going to put this together like this, and you want to be able to get that tab in there. And so if you put tear and tape right to the edge, you won't be able to get it in. So we're just going to run it across the top. And this just makes it a more reinforced cup piece. That's pretty much all this does. It strengthens your cup. Could do it as a single layer, but like I said, gives you more stability. Okay, so now we're going to take those pieces out. And we're just going to fold this down again. Fold it down, matching up your score lines so you know you're straight. And then we're going to take this piece off. I'm going to bring it around and tuck it in. And if it hopefully will fit in there, right up to the edge. So now we're going to go along and we're going to just cut in between each of those score lines. And actually, I think I should have punched one more time on this edge, but I'm just, let's see if I can just cut a little diamond there. But I should have punched one more time on that edge. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take your opposite sides and attach them. And you're going to attach them so that your square edges or your bigger edges are going to meet right in the middle. You want to try to keep your cup as round, if you will, as possible. So, and I'm going to use tear and tape again for this. So you really need it on the bottom of every other piece. And I usually take my bone folder just to reinforce that, make sure it's stuck together. So there's your little cup. Now just to finish off the bottom, we're going to take, this is a, oops, this, where'd it go? Oh, we're going to take a 1.5 inch circle, and we're just going to attach it to the bottom. It just kind of finishes off that edge. Nobody's going to really see it, but, and actually I'm just going to use some multi-purpose liquid glue for that. It's quick and easy for that purpose. Because we're actually going to be putting another circle of silver over this. Okay, I want that to set in there again. Use my bone folder. Okay, so there's your cup. So now we have a piece, a 1/2 inch piece by this is 8.5 inches, I believe. Yes, 8.5 inches. And I'm just going to take my bone folder and gently curl it just to give it some curve to it. Now, if you really wanted to, you could try and figure out the measurements. They are 1.25 inch and score it and whatnot. I just left it round to try to give the cup a little bit more of a rounded shape. And I'm going to put tear and tape all along this, and starting at the back seam, I'm going to wrap this around, covering those little holes that are left in the bottom. So it'll come around and it'll overlap here, okay? And I might use 2 rows of tear and tape just to make sure it really sticks. Because you are on a curve and it might be fighting the curve a little bit. So, and again, if you want to, you know, really crease each of those score lines as you go around, you can do that as well. But in fact, I'm going to take this piece of tear and tape off and place another one slightly overlapping and adjacent to it, just so I really get adhesive. Again, you could use multi-purpose liquid glue. The only thing for me with multi-purpose liquid glue and silver foil or any other foils, if you get any kind of glue residue on the foil, it's hard to get off. Although I found a little trick. I use Goo Gone to, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's something they use to take adhesive off of if you have like a picture frame and you take off the price sticker and you get stuck with a little adhesive on it. It's basically an orange resin type, I mean an orange product, so the acid in the orange kind of eats away at it. Anyway, I will spritz a little bit on a paper towel and gently rub it on the silver foil, and that adhesive comes right off. So that's my little trick for if you do get a adhesive issue of applying that. So here we go. I'm going to, let's see, I think I'm just going to slightly over the edge. I want it towards the bottom. I'm just going to go around, trying to keep it covering up that gap as best I can. And you know, you could kind of give it that little pinch on the score lines. And like I said, I put 2 pieces of adhesive. You are catching this little bottom part. A lot of this is open, so you know, 1 would probably suffice, but I wanted to be extra sure I had as much adhesive as I could on there. And I guess I'll, oops, a little crooked there. Straighten that out. Okay. And there we go. Okay. So now we have our silver base. All right, so now we're going to work on the pedestal for our trophy. So I'm going to bring in my scoreboard, or you can use your trimmer with the scoring tool. And what I've got is it's a 1.5 by 3 3/4 piece of silver foil. I'm just going to score it at 1/4 inch on each of these sides. So put your 1 1/4 inch piece here and just score it 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch. That's all you need for that. And then I'm going to use my bone folder again to try to give that piece a nice gentle curve, because we are going to be rolling this. And then I'm going to take these 2 pieces, will end up, one will go underneath here and one is going to go on top of your box, and this little tube will go through it. So I would recommend, if you're doing this on your own, I would recommend first punching the 3/4 inch circle and then punching, this is a 2 inch circle, punch it over it, because you'll probably be able to center it better, but I did pretty well. So we'll see how well I do. Eyeballing it, hopefully. Might be a little off, but like I said, yeah, just a little off. So let me do a little bit, try to do a little bit better. That one can go on the underneath part. But that's what I mean. If you had taken your silver foil, that one's not too bad. If you had taken your silver foil, punch the 3/4 inch out, and then you can take your 2 inch punch and see where that circle is to get it more centered. But anyway, so what I'm going to do is I want to roll this, and actually I probably don't even need that. I don't know why I measured it that big. So we're going to figure out what size this really needs to be. I just want to make sure I'm able to get it through that hole, but we want it snug enough. So you know what I'm going to do? This time I'm going to mark. I didn't mark it the first time. So I just want to see how wide this piece really needs to be. Okay, so we could go and take off that much. So really, see, I'm working as I go here, because this is how I usually work, and I didn't measure, and I was trying to measure and whatnot. So anyway, actually this piece only needs to be 2.5 inches round. So I'm going to change those instructions. I'll fix that on the on my printed sheet. So I'm going to just trim that off because we don't need it that round. Okay. So I'm going to put some tear and tape on this edge. But before I actually close it up, I'm going to make sure I've got the right dimension so that we can get it through that circle, that 3/4 inch hole there. And I'm also going to just trim off that score line in the edge of the tear and tape because it's going to add more bulk than I need, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. Okay. All right. So I just want to make sure when I roll this, let me just give it another score, that it's going to fit. When I attach that like that, it's still going to fit through that hole. Okay. Yes, it will. Okay. So let me take that tape off. Sheet off. And we're carefully going to match up the top and bottom. Tricky. There we go. That's pretty good. Okay. So that's going to go in there. Should be. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to trim, make little snips all along the bottom. And this is why I cut off those little pieces at the top and bottom, because it would have made this area a little bit thicker than it needed to be. So I'm just snipping up to that score line, that 1/4 inch score line we put on this. And I'm just about 1/4 inch snips, give or take, all the way around. Okay, then I'm gonna put this through first, and I'm gonna push these out because this is what's going to hold this to this side, and then we're gonna do the same on the other side with this piece. It's gonna go through there and be attached. So, I think I'm going to use my Tombow for this. So I don't want to get too close to the circle because it is going to spread out once you press it. Oops, oh no, get back in there. Okay. All right, so there we go. And now, again, matching the back seam. Now this is the front. We'll want the box to open this way. So I'm going to put the seams of the cup to the back. And there. I want this flat piece here. There we go. Okay. So we're just going to press that down. And there you go. So there's your basic trophy. That looks pretty cute. Okay, so it does take a little time to put that together. It's actually more the tape than anything else. So now we're going to embellish it. And on this one I had World's Greatest Father. And I want to show you this stamp set. It's absolutely wonderful. It's been overlooked. It's got everything you need. All your masculine father, brother, and then you've got grandpa. And it even has a grand and an in-law and a great. It has dad. For women, it has husband, son, and then for women, it has mother, sister, niece, auntie, mum, daughter, wife. It's got parent, nephew, aunt. You've got coach, you've got teacher. I mean, it really covers the gamut. And so I really think it's a great set to have on hand for if you like personalizing. So on this one, I did World's Greatest Father because I was doing the project for Father's Day. And on this one, I'm going to do World's Greatest Teacher because it is starting to be the end of the school year. So we're going to do that one. I'm also, once again, going to use the little, I guess, feathers, if you will. And I've bent my stamp particularly so it fits within that shield. So once again, I'm going to use my Powder Pal because we're going to heat emboss this with silver. And my Versamark ink. Oops, let's do this first. And I'm going to put my fleur-de-lis, or no, my feathers, whatever. Laurel, that's what they are, laurel. And I don't think I have that centered properly on the point. I wanted it to be centered on the point. We could probably fudge that. So then I'm going to put my World's Greatest Teacher and set that right in there. Not doing such a great job when you can't. Normally I like to look right over the top of my stamping, and I just didn't want to get into the camera too much, but anyway. So we're going to put our embossing powder, and I'm always pretty generous because you're just going to dump it back into your container anyway. Give it a good snap. If you see anything, and if you see any odd pieces, you can always clean it up a little bit with, if you have a little paintbrush, just brush away any extra. Okay, let me heat that up. Okay. So on this one, because it was Father, I used a heart down here and a star up here, but I think I'm just going to use probably 2 stars. I'm using the metallic enamel shapes, and these are retiring, so they've been they come in silver and gold, and they've been kind of fun to use. So I can make that look a little straighter. Come on, star. Nothing wants to cooperate today. Okay. And I'll put another one at the top. I mean, if you really have a great relationship with your teacher, or you have a family member who's a teacher, you can always use the hearts, but these days you got to be so careful. Okay. So then these are little leaves from, this is the Petals and More Thinlit dies, and these were in the Occasions catalog, but they are carrying over the stamp set as well. And I've used about 2/3 of this die. So if you cut a 1/2-inch strip of the silver foil and you have pieces of it, you can easily make 5. You need 5 of these little leaves. And all I did was, I'm using Fast Fuse for this, but you can probably use snail, or if you want to use the tear and tape again. Okay, am I running out? Maybe I won't be using this. All right, we're going to use tear and tape. Nothing seems to be going my way, even though I thought I had this planned out. So I'm just going to lay down one layer, and I might have to lay some on top, because what I'm going to do is just line these up in the back and kind of play around with the arrangement. As I've said in the past, you usually want to do things in odd numbers, and I started with 3 and I didn't think it was enough, so I went with 5. So I'm going to start with one in the middle. This will probably be the tallest one, and just kind of stick that there. And then I'll have one a little bit shorter coming off of this side. I don't know, it reminded me of, you see these shields and, olive branches and things like that. So that's what I was kind of thinking about when I did this. And we still have some adhesive, so this one's going to be a little bit lower and a little bit lower below that one. So as you can see, you don't need a full piece of this this little die. You just need small portions of it. And then I just put some Stampin' Dimensionals on the back and attached it to the front. I'm going to actually put them on the sides here, because actually, wait a minute, we actually may not even have enough room, so I'm going to keep it close to the center, because it's only going to fit in the middle of that cup. So because we're going to put it right here. Okay. So there you go. This one is a little, it doesn't have the sequins on it. When I did the sequins, I was using glue dots, and I started putting some down here to try to keep this in shape, but I didn't put one over here when it started to get monotonous. So, so if you want to do the sequins and you want it to be right in place, you're probably going to need to put glue dots at either point just to keep that flow going. But I kind of like the embossed part too. And this one, we've kept it open so you can put a treat or a little gift. This would be a great size for a watch. Or you can fill it up here, put a gift card, or put some little chocolates or whatever you want to do. But I think they're kind of cute, so maybe you'll give it a try. And I will put the instructions, the measurements and everything on an instruction sheet with the right measurements. Follow the link below to go to my blog for the PDF instructions and measurements for this project. Thanks for watching.